Okay, last one for this morning. Probably take this up again tomorrow. I'd like to explain that comment, successfully homeless. So, when I was 18, give or take, Mom, my mother, left with her future new husband, Tom, and me and my brothers were kind of, doing our own thing for a few years without parents. And when she came back to try and reclaim what she had dropped, it wasn't really that simple. And she told the rental office, and they gave me like 3 days to move. And so I ended up moving in with my sisters, which didn't really last very long because they were tossing me back and forth between their houses. Between the three of them, they had 7 children, and they were all single mothers. So I kind of just became their daycare person and didn't exactly have a household to call mine because I was in theirs. And that went on for half a decade or so, maybe a little more. And then I ended up going to Virginia. My brother, he was deployed. He was military. Gave me $100 in his apartment for 30 days because he was out of the country and allowed me to establish pieces of my life. So I got 2 jobs and, kind of went from there. When he came back, and his life came with him. So, yeah, it got kind of complicated. I was saving money, but then I started falling into my old behaviors, which was being randomly nice and doing odd things like feeding total strangers. He had a lot of club kids, the people that like to visit the DC area clubs that came on the weekends, Thursday through Sunday. That's how their weekends were. And I ended up, feeding everybody because they were always hungry, or feeding the maintenance people, or feeding, just anyone who wanted a sandwich. If they were just talking like, I haven't eaten lunch, I'd just start, doing that, handing out Rice Krispie treats, making brownies, making cookies, because that's just kind of a habit of mine. I've been baking since high school. It's a stress reliever. Cereal baking, I can go through a good 20 pounds of flour in a couple of days. But after Virginia, after, I guess, leaving my brother's apartment, I ended up living with a coworker for 6 months. Maybe I was renting a room, but that was a, finite situation. And then I ended up living with a sort of boyfriend for 2 months, although I don't really consider him a boyfriend. Didn't really want to live with him. Wasn't really the best situation. And then after 2 months, he tossed me over to one of his friends who let me sublet a room. And his friend was an absolute jerk. That's another story for another time, though. Yeah. So it was maybe 3 months. And then I ended up moving in with my friend Sandra and her family. And that was only for about a month because I ended up going blind at work again and had to go back to Maryland to get my original cranial implant, which is the, in there somewhere. So after coming back and having surgery 3 months later, I was living with my sister and her boyfriend and her children, which is another story. I had surgery in February. I had to leave the job because I came back and started working at a pizzeria. And it took quite a few months to recover from that original surgery, and by August of that year, I ended up moving into someone else's household, which was my lovely, wonderful friend Marsha and her family. But then her parents ended up selling their house, so about 2 months after that, because I helped them stage their home, and they sold it very quickly, I was SOL once again and ended up living with another family. They wanted me to go to school. And so I think that's when I originally started taking classes and trying to improve things. And I don't remember which job I had. I think I worked at the bakery at that time for a good couple of years. Maybe a year. I don't really remember. It was a nice bakery. Located in Columbia. Try their fabulous breads. Great harvest. I ended up rolling through many households, but none were really actually mine. House sit, babysit, pet sit, continuously for almost a decade is an interesting ability, which I claim for myself. I guess a resourcefulness, or at least I've been told that not everyone could possibly do that. And when I realized that I'm just continuously rolling through people's houses and going through school, and that's not a good state to stay in, I started trying to become employed gainfully. Once again, not that I was ever ungainfully employed, I was just like invisibly employed, not really getting any monetary reimbursements for the efforts that I put forth. So I ended up working in a flower shop because my wonderful, lovely friend Sarah threw that at me because I needed help, and so helpful. We all kind of just went in there. I worked at that flower shop for, I don't know, 6 months, maybe more. I have to ask Sarah about that. So I was transferred to the Catonsville store because I ended up being at Winters Lane. I actually got an apartment, but I only stayed there for like a month because she sold her house and I had to move again. So then I think I ended up back at my sister's for a couple of weeks because I needed a surgery. And from there ended up in my friend's in her basement she was renting. Recovering, I should probably slow down and take this one step at a time. I think I'm jumping way too many steps, but yeah, over the years I've been rolling through many, many houses and have had maybe 3 or 4 apartments of my own, which only actually stayed for a few months before I had to jump into something else because things just keep happening and kept going, and unexplainable events kept popping up, and you kind of just deal with it. What else are you going to do, right? Okay. Taking a break.